Hi, this is Paul Perdue, and this is the March 2009 virtual user group meeting of the Tabs3 PracticeMaster virtual user group. I am here with Mary Jo. Are you here, Mary Jo?
Yes, I am.
Very good. And today we are going to have a very fast-paced session where we go through 15 PracticeMaster and Tabs3 tips in 30 minutes. I see I've already lost a minute by talking too long in the intro, so I'm going to start out with something in Tabs. And let's see. That's client info. Okay. This is the client manager. And it is a place where you can go and see everything about a specific client. So for instance, if we type in Larson and pull up Michael Larson's workers' comp case, we can see his AR balance, and if he had a balance, how that breaks down by 30, 60, 90, etc., and broken down by fees, cost, finance, charge, and total. We can see all of his fees, what they total, what they are made up of. We can edit a fee by double-clicking, and we can add a new fee, once we get out of here, by clicking on New. And right there, clicking on New. We can look at costs the same way. We can see what's in there and add a new one. We can do the same thing with payments, adding a new one or looking at what's already in there. And if we're not using the trust accounting system and we are using the client funds feature of Tabs 3, we can look at those fund transactions. Most importantly, however, is you have 10 slots down here that are customizable. Now you are looking at mine in pretty much the order that I like to see them. We have generate statements, update, client ledger, reprint, unbill, all these statement-related things over here. We have a report that I use a lot, cash receipts. We have writing up and writing down. We have undoing a single updated statement, and we have the transaction file list. But if you don't like those, or if you don't find it that way when you go in, you can click on Customize. And once you're in this customized mode, clicking on an icon will take you to a place where you can select one of the many things that you can have down there. Now the nice thing about this is, when you do this, when you run this transaction file list right here, it's just for Michael Larson's Larson versus Belcor. And where is it? There it is.
Got it to a file.
I hit the preview button. This is 15.2, Mary Jo.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Don't tell anyone. We're not supposed to show this. And so we are looking just at a detail file transaction list for the guy's case, Michael Larson's, that we had on the screen. And I think that's really cool. We can do any of these things just for this particular case. And before it clicks over to 4 and I get the bell, I'm going to turn over to Mary Jo for her first tip. I can talk, really.
Okay, for my tip, I'm going to take you back to the client screen. I'm just going to go to it from the client manager. That's fine. And in any client screen, I wanted to show you this really fun thing. If you're in here, and I don't know how many of you have done this, but you want to add a different location, or on the Setup tab, you want to change the billing category, but when you do the drop-down, it doesn't exist. And so then you have to exit out, and you have to go to the billing category, and then you have to enter the billing category, and then come back in here, and then you have it available to choose. Or billing frequency, timekeepers, any of these fields that you want to go ahead and add a new one or change an existing one. If you just right-click in the box next to billing category, for instance, you can edit the category. And it'll take me right in there, so that I can go ahead and I can either change and add a description for this billing category, or if I need to change it to something else, or I can right here add a new one, and I can say, okay, number 2 is not being used, or I could choose a number, and I could go ahead and add a new billing category. And then as soon as that's complete, I'm just going to put in here test and save it. When I come back and exit out of here, it'll take me right back to that client screen, and when I do the drop-down, I now have test available here. I thought that was kind of cool because I don't know, like I said, how many times that I've come in here and I've had to change, my billing frequency, and I want to make sure, that I've got monthly as my default, and I have to go out and I can just go ahead and come right in. I could choose monthly, and I could go ahead and set that as my default right now, right here. instead of having to go out of the client when I'm busy doing something. So that's my really fast tip, and I'm going to send it back to Paul.
And that works anywhere, Mary Jo,
it
like
does
in
work
fee entry
anywhere.
if you need to add a timekeeper or add a
Yep.
transaction code? Okay.
If I come out of here and I go into fee, we can just go out of Client Manager all the way. But if I went into the fee icon, again, I could come in and I could change a timekeeper. I could right-click, and I could edit the timekeeper.
Cool.
Okay? Or transaction codes. Transaction codes are another big one. If you want to edit the transaction code, maybe it doesn't exist, or you want to change the description on a transaction code so it always says something else in the future, right there. You can come in and edit that transaction code, and it's done.
Awesome.
So very powerful, very useful tool. Okay, Paul.
Okay. Now I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go back to the Client Manager. There are, and we've talked about this before in this group, there are certain set defaults that you can set for any report. If you like a report a certain way, you can set it that way, and it will always default to that when you come up. For instance, if we go into the Client Manager and want to print a client ledger report, if we did it with the system the way it already is, and this client doesn't owe any money right now, it wouldn't print anything, even though he's got client ledger to report on, because it defaults to not printing when there's a zero balance. And so therefore, if he doesn't owe any money and we print this, even though he's got ledger to print, it's not going to print it. Now, you don't really want to go and change the default for your main client ledger report to not show to show zero balance clients, because then if you run that regular report for all clients, it's going to show you everybody, all 10,000 clients you've got in the system, whether they've got owe you money or not. But when you're in here, you want to see just you still want to see it even if the client's got a zero balance. Well, we discovered this the other day, about a month ago or 2 months ago, that if when you go to select this, you can click on this report definition button over here, and it'll take you to the screen for that particular report and allow you to select whatever options you want when you run this report from the Client Manager. And that's important because sometimes you have defaults that you want just for a report as a whole, but different defaults that you want when you run it from the Client Manager. And you can actually stipulate those by coming into the Customize mode and clicking the Report Definition button when you're setting up that report icon to show up on the Client Manager. Very cool. Okay, Mary Jo, your turn.
I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to go into PracticeMaster for a moment, and I'm going to talk about the calendar screen. A lot of times when we are in, is it coming up here? There it is. I'm lost. I'm like, where is it? When you're in the calendar screen and you're putting in a calendar entry, a lot of times at the bottom of that calendar entry there next to the client ID, you do have just the client ID and the name. And sometimes it's very helpful if you also had what matter description was there. So what I'm going to show you is how to actually make the description a virtual field and put that in next to the client ID and name so that when you go into a calendar entry, you can see which matter it belongs to. So the first thing that you need to do is go into File Maintenance, and we have to create a virtual field that we can then use in the Form Designer, and then we can go ahead and put that next to that field that's already there. So I'm going to come in. I went to File Maintenance. I'm going to come down here and choose the calendar file, and I'm going to say OK. That's going to go ahead and open up this window, and I want to choose Field. And this gives me a list of all the fields that are currently existing in that in the calendar view. There we go. Spit it out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to enter new. That little piece of paper looking thing, just like in all of our other modules, is new. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is matter. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make that a virtual field. Okay? I would just name it matter. And then I can come here. It's going to ask me where to look this up from. And I'm going to tell it that I want, is this where I want to?
Yep, the client ID.
The client ID. And then field to copy from is going to be the description field. Okay? And then
so what you're doing here is putting the description field into a calendar record. so that later on you can see it. Is that right?
Yes. So now after I've linked it to the client ID and then chosen the description, I'm going to go ahead and say done. It will go ahead and I'm going to save it. And it's going to re-index my files real quick and add that new field in there. When that's complete, I'm going to go ahead and close that field. Now I'm going to go over to my calendar file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that field to the calendar window. And I've got a little delay. I apologize. My connection's a little slow here today. But I went into the calendar file. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the Edit View, and I'm going to go to Form Designer. And then when I get to this field right next to Client ID here, or somewhere on this screen, I have the option then to go ahead and choose a field. It's just the A with the box around it, add a field. And if I scroll down, I now have this matter field available for me to go ahead and put in. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. It goes ahead and puts it there. I'm just, for the sake of showing you, you have the ability to move this anywhere that you want to, but I'm just going to put it down here at the bottom of the screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and get out and save this. And then when I go into my calendar record, if I wanted to add a new calendar record here, I'm just going to go ahead and open a new one. And you'll see that now I have the matter down below here. So when I choose a client to attach this to, Philip Marcus.
Ours looks like this.
And you can see how that's grayed out, and we know that this is Philip Marcus's real estate acquisition. Okay?
Cool. Now that could be anything. That could be the client's telephone number that you pulled from the client file, or their address, or what city they're in. If it's, you're traveling.
See that being really, that way they make sure they put it on the right.
And virtual fields are not limited to just the calendar file. You can put those in any screen that you want to in PracticeMaster, so you can add any of those fields in there. Oh.
When I make my telephone calls,
You're right, because that's what we want to use. Yeah.
I wonder if the people that are talking to each other right now know that everybody can hear them. When I make my telephone calls, I have a note up about the call that I'm making. And a lot of times when I first started making telephone calls to people to sell them software, I would forget what city they were in or what firm they were with and things like that. So I put virtual fields in there so that when I'm looking at a note, I know their phone number, I know who they are, what my nickname for them is. If they're William but I call them Bill, then I know that. And so virtual fields can be really helpful. Now, where am I? Final Bill and Client Manager. I've shown you the Client Manager in Tabs, and I've got one more thing to show you about it. If we print, we're in the Client Manager, we're going to print a bill for Michael Larson. If we click on Generate Statements right now, we will see a draft bill because the Client Bill, the Client Manager Generate Statements is only going to do a draft bill, and for whatever reason that didn't print, but if we want to print a final bill in Client Manager, which people sometimes do, all you have to do is double-click up here so that you can block the number, right-click and choose Copy. We're copying this number. Right-click here, don't left-click, but right-click on the Generate Statements and choose Statements. Right-click here and choose Paste, and then go over here and say Final, okay? So those steps, they seem complex because you're not used to them like I am, so I'll repeat them one more time. Those steps will get you a final bill from here as opposed to a draft bill. And if you get used to working in this Client Manager, you'll love it. And if you love it as much as I do, you're going to want to print final bills from here. So you double-click to block the number. You right-click to copy it. You right-click here and choose Statements. You right-click here and choose Paste. And you click over here and choose Final. 6 steps. Once you get used to them, they're very easy. And when you click Yes, you'll be looking, or click OK, you'll be looking at a final bill as opposed to a draft bill. And then you can print it. You can save it to a file. You can look at it on the screen and then just update it. If a lot of times, if you're under payment in here, and the client owed $100 and he paid $100, you want to just come in here and view a final bill and then update him. Perfect way to do it. Okay, Mary Jo?
Okay, I'm going to go back into PracticeMaster, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more about file maintenance.
Kathy, I just jumped in. Sorry I'm late.
Okay, so we're going to come up here. I'm going to get out of the calendar, and I'm going to go back into file maintenance. And again, I can come up here. You can go into maintenance and then file maintenance. And then what I want to talk to you about is the snapshot view and how to customize that. So right now, if we come into a client, and I choose any client, it doesn't matter, you'll see that I have the snapshot view down here. And in this order, I've got different fields that are ordered a certain way. Now let's say that you don't want to see this down here in that way. You want to see the profile information up higher, or these fields are all able to be organized a little differently. So what I'm like, this integrate with QuickBooks. If you don't integrate with QuickBooks or you don't care to see that up here, we can move that down out of the way. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do right now. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go into the file maintenance window. And again, you would go ahead and make a backup when you're doing this. But I'm going to go ahead and go into the client file. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to go to the field file. And just by organizing these fields a little bit differently, we'll change the position that they show up on that snapshot. So in my case, I want to take that integrate with QuickBooks right here. Too far. QuickBooks integration, and I want to move that down. And to do that, you have arrows up here. You've got the up and the down arrow, and if I click the down arrow, that's going to move the field down. But another inside tip inside of file maintenance is if you hit the Alt down arrow, it goes a lot faster, and I can just move that right down out of my way instead of clicking on that arrow.
Really?
Time. So that will move the fields up and down. Alt up arrow or Alt down arrow will move the fields up and down much quicker than just clicking on this button up here with your mouse. All right, so I've moved the QuickBook integration field all the way down to the bottom. And any of these fields, like I'm saying, you can move in any order that you want to see them in the snapshot. And I'll say done. Go ahead and save that. And now when I come out here and I go back to the client, when I look at the snapshot, come on, and come down here, I can see that the integrate with QuickBooks field is down at the bottom now. So that's a very useful tool when you're, if you want to see this in a different format, you can order these any way that you would like to.
And that Alt up and down arrow thing is new to me, so I'm getting PracticeMaster tips too. I'm going to talk about PracticeMaster for a second, and I'm going to talk about the ability to export, or should I say import, fees or costs. There's a firm in downtown Toledo that does patent and trademark work that works with an annuities service that bills monthly maintenance fees for literally thousands of cases to maintain annuities in foreign countries on trademarks and registrations. And they get an electronic bill from this company every month, and they've got the bill in a format that they can just import it into PracticeMaster. PracticeMaster allows you to import data into all the files that it has, including the fee and the cost file. So by merely getting the client ID as part of what this company is sending to them, they can then pull in the description and the amount for those maintenance fees and literally create thousands of costs on their bills each month automatically within about 10 minutes. We have another firm in Ann Arbor, Michigan that does landlord-tenant work for the largest property management company in Ann Arbor, and they prepare approximately 850 evictions every month. By the time they get to court, they may only have, let's say, 600 or 650 left because the other people have paid their rent, but they create a report in PracticeMaster that we wrote for them that merely exports the client number, a field that says $150, a field that says preparation of eviction complaint, and another field that identifies the primary timekeeper, so that each row of this report is one fee entry for a particular case. They export that report and they pull it into PracticeMaster through the import routine, and they have literally in about 5 minutes created 650 or 700 fee entries for $150 each. Okay, so by using the export and import of data, sometimes you want to export data because you know which cases to bill. It's in PracticeMaster, and you just have to export it and then pull it right back in as fees. Or in the other example, the firm in downtown Toledo that gets it from one of their vendors in a CSV format, in a text file format, pulling that file in automatically creates hundreds, if not thousands, of fees or cost entries. Okay, Mary Jo?
I have one very fast tip, so this will give Paul a little bit longer to talk on his next one.
What are you implying?
Going back to the snapshot, a lot of people, maybe they do not want to see the snapshot view down below here. These little buttons here on the side, either you hit the down arrow and it puts it at the bottom. This little arrow here, I just got out of it, sorry. The down arrow will put it at the bottom. The side arrow can put it at the side. And then if I just wanted to right-click, I just lost my...
You lost it.
I lost it. Hold on. Don't.
You can actually right-click here and choose Snapshot.
I was doing that, but you took my mouse. You right-click, and you can close it, or you can put it to the right or to the bottom. And each of these arrows will move it to the different sides. So if I click the bottom arrow, that will move it to the bottom. If I click the right arrow, it'll move it to the right. And then if I want to close it, I can right-click, and I can just choose Snapshot, and I can close it. So not only do you have the ability to customize the order of your fields, but you can also customize the look of your screen. So
that's cool.
I'm going to put it at the bottom.
I did not know that those arrows were there. I never really paid any attention to that. Also, if you get it like this and you want more room over here, you just have to hover over this bar and grab it with your mouse button and move it over. So once you get it in the place you want it, you can move it around just by going like that. Okay. Now, this is one that Mary Jo and I did not know until Britt Knutson, who is an STI dealer in Roanoke, Virginia, pointed this out at a forum, at the STI forum last Friday on a panel that she and I were on. But if you have dictionaries, when you go and put in PracticeMaster or Tabs, you probably have been using Word, or let's say WordPerfect, for years and years. And if you go into Dictionary Maintenance and go to Add Delete Words, not only is there the ability in here to add certain words that you may not be in the dictionary but that you want in there, but you can also add a dictionary. And if you simply click on this button and then navigate to the place where your dictionaries are, now these are the STI dictionaries, but if you navigate to the directory that holds your Word dictionaries and double-click on them, there will be a main dictionary plus a dictionary that you've created with all your added words. You don't know you're creating this, but you are when you add a word in Word or in WordPerfect. That'll instantly suck all those words that you've created and added to your dictionary from years and years of use of Word or WordPerfect into PracticeMaster and into Tabs. I don't know where to find these. I was going to find out this morning, and I ran out of time. But there is a directory that holds all your Word or WordPerfect dictionary files. And if you navigate to that directory and point to that dictionary file that you've been building for years and years, it will suck all those words into Tabs and PracticeMaster. Mary Jo?
Okay, I'm going to go back into Tabs, and I'm going to talk about the location field. There are other uses for the location field. If you don't have a second location for your office, you're just a single law firm entity with just one location, that field is usually left unused. So in our situation, Paul uses it to keep track of all of our sales tax for all the different counties in Ohio, and then he can run reports on how much sales tax he is charged for each of the different counties in Ohio, for Michigan, and for Indiana, or wherever he's at. Another use for the location field, if you want to keep track of where your files are. In this case, we've got, either they're off-site, they're in the file room, they're destroyed. You can add whatever you want in here for location, and then you can keep track of where the file actually is. There's many uses that you could do for this. These are just two, but you can run reports then based on that location field. So keep that in mind when you're thinking of ways that you need to break down certain information in tabs to get clients either file where their location is, sales tax, other locations if you have 2 locations or more, or whatever you can come up with to just get some information. It's an open field that you can sort on, you can run reports on. So there's probably a myriad that we haven't thought of, but that may work for your firm as well.
And location is also something that you can post payments to GL on. So I've gone into the GL integration in tabs and told it that it should break down the sales tax when I post a payment into specific GL accounts based on either the county in Ohio or the fact that it's in Michigan, Ohio, or Illinois. And it posts it to the appropriate account. I can't tell you how much time it used to take to fill out the Ohio sales tax return every quarter because there are 88 counties that we could conceivably be doing business in. And it doesn't matter how many counties there are, just the fact that you have to look at every payment in Ohio without this tool and try and decide what county it is, it just saves a lot of time. I'm going to go back over to PracticeMaster. We discovered this. It's kind of like a little hidden gem. There are people that use the document management within PracticeMaster, but I haven't met many people that like it, because in order for document management to work in PracticeMaster, you have to first go and save your document and then come here and fill out a profile, including pointing to that document, which means going here and then drilling down to the 8 layers of folders that you have for this particular client and then pointing to the document. It could be helpful, but it's just so darn difficult that it takes about 30, 40, 50 seconds to do, and when you're doing 20 or 30 or sometimes 40 or 50 documents a day, it just doesn't happen. Okay, we have something called World Docs that is a document management system that hooks into PracticeMaster very nicely. But for those that don't have World Docs and those that don't want to do this, but they still want a quick and easy way to get to their files, their documents, you can create a document management record by creating a new record, and instead of pointing to a document, you point to a folder. For instance, if I point right now to there's a trick. You have to actually point to a folder, but then when you get done, you take that, or point to a document, but when you get done, you take that document name out. If I point to this document, I'm actually putting in the name of the whole folder all the way down to my documents, and then that label template point DOC is the actual name of the document. Well, if I take that out, and I also take out that last backslash and then save it that way, when I come back in and go to this document management record and click here, instead of opening up a document, it opens up in Windows Explorer the folder for that client. Now imagine if you have client folders and then subfolders for matters underneath that, and for each matter you simply point to the appropriate folder. That means that from within PracticeMaster, with a single click, you can get right to that client's documents or that matter's documents without having to go back to Word or out to Windows Explorer. It's right there. Now, take that one step further. This was one of the tips I presented in Lincoln last Friday at the STI Forum. And Myrna, who's the head trainer for STI, said, well, what if you just put a field that's a file field, the same type of field that's in that document profile, right on the main screen? So if we just come in here and point to that and take this off of here, then I don't even have to go to the Docs tab and click on a fake document that's not really a document. I just come here and click on that, and bam, I get a list of all my documents for that particular matter. Mary Jo?
Okay, I'm going to get out of, I'll get out of that. Go ahead. I'm going to talk about displaying fields on your calendar in PracticeMaster. Out of the box, it has just certain fields that show up. Maybe it's the date of the appointment or whatever, but I'm going to show you over here in Calendar Properties how you can change that and change your view of what you see on your appointment. Right here, there is a box called Display Fields. And if I go ahead and hit Select Fields, right now, the only thing that's showing up on my calendar is the description. But if I wanted to see the client ID or the time of the appointment, things like that, I like to see the start time, I like to see the description. I also like to see the client name rather than the ID, so I can choose client name. And I can order these.
You could even put in that matter virtual field that you added for the other.
Yes, I could. I could put down here, and I've added a matter field, so that could go in there. So I get the start time, a description of what my appointment is, the client name, and the matter that it's involved in. And now if I come over here and save that, and I come out and go back to my calendar, when I look at appointments, right here, now you can see that I've got the user ID, but I've got the start time, I've got what the description is, and then I've got the client, and then what the matter is. So that's how it will actually show up in my calendar instead of just showing a description of my calendar entry. So that just gives me a little more information when I'm getting ready for my day so that I know what I'm doing. Paul?
Good. I'm going to skip down one, Mary Jo, so I can go find something that I forgot to get. Text macros. When you go in to add a fee entry or a cost, you've got this thing called a transaction code. For instance, if I put in TC, I think it's going to pop up telephone conference with. Well, for a lot of people that works just fine. But we also have these things called text macros, and I'm going to show you where they are, and we're going to set one up real quick. No, we're not going to save. We're going to go over here, and we're going to say that we want to go to Setup and text, how about Utilities? Text macro maintenance. And we are going to look and see what we've got. Well, we've got a couple. Attended, draft and revise, court appearance, communicate with, enclosure, letter to, none of these seem to end anything. Opposing counsel, OPP is opposing counsel, and letter to is LT. Okay, remember those, Mary Jo. We're going to go back over here. We're going to add a fee. We're going to let it just go through all the way down to here. We did 1 hour. And I'm going to put in LT space. See that? Letter 2. And I'm going to put in OPP space, opposing counsel. Those are text macros. And I've just demonstrated the real beauty of them is that you can have more than one in this box. So you could have a whole long sentence that was composed of 4 or 5 different text macros, and you just know the codes and type them, and as soon as you hit space, bam, you're done. Now, the problem is when you set up a text macro, you really want to have the last character be something that is going to help distinguish it as being a text macro. For instance, if I had OH mean open and handle, and then I typed a client meeting in Toledo, Ohio, and I used OH to represent Ohio, it would translate it to client meeting in Toledo, comma, open and handle. So we always recommend you put something like a slash or a dash or a tilde as the last character of all text macros, and that way when you type OH slash and hit space, it'll put in open and handle. But if you type OH and hit space, it won't put in open and handle. And just a kind of a tip to go along with the tip. Okay, Mary Jo?
Okay, this is my last tip, and I am going to show you in PracticeMaster, again in the calendar field. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that this is my task list that I have to complete. And I have a certain layout on my column headings. It says due date, description, group info, user ID, time start, time end. Now, if those do not fit what I want to do, I can change this column layout. So I want to show you how to do that makes a little more sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go to my calendar file, and it's right here on this little icon. Or you could do File Open Calendar. And then once I'm here, on my Quick Clicks bar over here, I have a column layout button. And I can go ahead here and see there's a task list one already created, and that's the default column layout that we use for that task list. You can set up separate column headings for each user because maybe, Jane in this office wants to see her headings a certain way, but Bob over in his office wants to see them a different way. So I could edit a new one and add a completely different one for each user, or I can just go ahead and I can edit the task list right here. So I'm going to go ahead and edit, and this would change it for everyone who has it set on the task list. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that, edit it, and then I can come over here and make these a little bit more useful. For me, priority I don't need. I might want user ID, and I might want to move this. I probably want maybe start time, and I can move these up and down in an order that makes sense to me. I can put start time. Maybe I want the description first. Who's responsible? I don't know if I need the complete date. Maybe I want to know the due date. I want to know who the client is, and maybe the client name. So I can, rearrange these in any order that I want, save it, and then when I come out, I can go ahead back into a calendar entry. Get out of here. Go back into the daily calendar, or whichever view you're looking at, and now you can see I've got, you know what, I didn't change my list, I'm sorry. You will want to go back into your calendar properties and make sure that we're using on the task list. See, they're using the user lookup column layout. I'm going to use the task list. Say OK. Now when I come in here to the daily calendar and I look down here at the bottom, I've got description, time start, user ID, due date, client ID, and client name. So these are all able to be adjusted any way that you want them to be. Okay? So that's my final tip. Paul, you ready for yours?
I'm ready. I found what I was looking for. If you do document assembly, you may have found that it's great for letters or even complex pleadings and complaints and all sorts of things. But if you've done any work with forms, PDF forms, you know that they're very difficult to do in document assembly. It is a little easier if you have something like Hot Docs, but Hot Docs is very expensive, and usually people, if they have Word and they are doing their document assembly straight into Word, they don't want to have Hot Docs in the middle because it kind of muddies up the water. Well, we found something. Hopefully I will investintech.com. Investintech.com is a company that has some PDF solutions, including something called
Able to Doc 5.0.
Where is it?
You had it back on the other, right here.
I
Able to Doc 5.0.
There we go. Okay. And what this does is it can take a PDF file and turn it into an image in the back of a Word document. So let's say you have a patent office form that you want to fill out and print out, and you want to do it in PracticeMaster using document assembly, but you don't know how to make the PDF form show up in Word. This product will do it. It'll let you scan that form. It'll put it in Word as the background of a document. And
so
then
it
you
keeps
use
your formatting, so you don't lose your PDF formatting. It'll keep it in that same...
It'll look exactly the way it did. Either you've got a PDF file or you scan a form in as a PDF. It will take that and put it exactly that way right into Word. And then all you do is create text boxes where the different fields go and drop codes in like you normally would if you were coding a document for document assembly. And you can actually create automatically generated PDF forms that you then print out and submit to the court or to whatever agency you're doing them for, all generated within PracticeMaster using Word document assembly without anything extra except this simple $99 or $79 program. And with that, we've had what we really should have called 15 tips in 39 minutes, and that concludes the March 2009 virtual user group meeting. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any lawyer jokes? Okay, we're done.
Thanks,
Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.